it couldn't present risk, but it's still a deviation because it's from a previous order. Below that level of minors is all this stuff. Stuff that we found on the checking. Getting that big pyramid down to a thin one is going to be achieved by a combination of things. Defining the premises, good definition, good layout, knowing what the hell is online and what's offline. Those processes, separating the cleaning and the checking and defining them properly. Process flow diagrams, step by step instructions of how, not just what to do, but how to do it. Supplemented by some of the other things we'll talk about. Modifying the equipment and be modifying it forevermore, be expecting to modify it forevermore. Understanding that people element, the human error elements, and validating your training processes. Managing the hotspots, improving documentation design, and I don't just mean the instructions, I mean the SOPs, the training materials that you're going to use. The 3 can be used in any combination you want, and you can put whatever you want into any of those 3, whatever works out best for you in your way of working in your company. But I'm talking about the combination of the 3 of them, not just the instruction or the batch record. And last, managing the deviations and, as Kevin calls it, the near-miss data generated during line checking. Any questions?
One question about the line clearance that you talked about. Are you suggesting that for the check, you talked about separating the clean and the check. Are you suggesting that the actual check should be on a separate document or on a document which clearly has the instructions next to it?
I don't know your documentation system, but whatever works out best for you, I have no strong feelings about it either way. What I prefer to see, ideally to me, because it separates it in the mindset in everybody's, is a cleaning document which describes how to clean. And you don't have to have all the detail there. As I said, that can be in the training manual or in an SOP or whatever you have that describes it elsewhere. But you sign to say, right, I've done this series of steps, sign, I've cleaned it. Afterwards, people think that because it's the same piece of kit, that the checking process is just the same as the cleaning process. You have to go to the same places, you do, but it's a different process. It should say things like, get down on your hands and knees, shine the torch up underneath, feel round the legs for tablets or anything that shouldn't be there, right? And we've seen some very good ones done. I mean, they're all part of the same batch documentation, but on separate sheets. If you want to do it, because it does precisely match up on the same sheet, on the system I described with the 2 parallel columns, okay. I mean, I guess it's easy to do, but to me, psychologically, it's still thinking, oh, clean check is the same thing. It's not a different process. And certainly what I would want to see is, whether it's in your SOP or in your training material, wherever you put it, I would want to see that series of bullet points and steps different on the cleaning than it is on the checking.
Right.
But where you actually provide the signatures, I prefer it separate if it's easier and you don't want to generate too much paper. As long as it's clear, I'd live with it on the one document, yeah. I mean, what we've seen today, that's Premier Division football. What we see on packaging lines out there in the real world is an awful lot different. And packaging lines tend to last a long time by and large, don't they? I mean, Andy, you would know, do they tend to last a lot longer than, manufacturing items of equipment? I get the impression that they're around for 20, 30 years.
I think with the implementation of the servo motors, you're going to see that extend even further now, because I do believe that the servo motors are so reliable and eliminate so much of the mechanics of the machine. It does mean that you're going to see machines going on for a good 20 years, I would have thought. But there's a lot of equipment out there which is Marcazzini manufactured, and I know that you've seen it as well up in Barnard Castle and places like that, which go back to the time when we didn't have any concept of line clearance, and I know that Keith's got some as well. So it is an area that we've concentrated tremendously on over the last few years, and now with the development of new technologies, we're able to come up with something that we believe is going to obviously facilitate line clearance for the future.
Is there a cost benefit for companies if they move from the older type thing to these new servo motor, easy to line clear things, do you think, or is it just massive expenditure compared with what they've got?
No, I think you've probably got to look on a payback time of at least a couple of years for this type of equipment. And normally we would try and help the customer by obviously looking at things like paybacks for machines that they already have that is of our manufacture from old designs. But nowadays, you know, the cost of the equipment I don't think is as bad as where it used to be, because there was a lot of work that went into producing all of the mechanics that go into the machines. Nowadays, because of the servos again, and because of all the components that go into new equipment, and buying a lot of very standard equipment as well, things like the PLCs, PCs, the displays, they're all bought in from outside, which means it brings the price of the equipment down. And I know that there are a number of countries that are producing low spec, low value equipment at the moment. But I think you've got to look at the wider aspect of exactly what you're going to be using the equipment for. Things like the balcony construction, the brushless motors, just offer so much additional value to the lifespan of the equipment. So you've got to look at the life cycle of the equipment as well. And the cost of the equipment, I don't believe, is anywhere near as bad as it used to be with the mechanical machines.
Okay. I just think that line clearance needs to be built into the design spec, and your URS should be absolutely clear. That, you know, cables and such like are not acceptable to be on the outside of the equipment.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But there is a tendency, I think, when people buy packaging machinery to not see it somehow in the same light as a sterilizer or a piece of production equipment. I don't know why that is, but certainly I think times are changing, and I'm very excited by Andy's stuff to, you know, see what is possible. And I think that's going to make the job an awful lot easier.
I agree with you that the fines during checking are not deviations, but you're saying we should have a process to follow these up. Should that be a process similar to our CAPA, or is it a separate process, in your opinion?
Oh, right, good question. Well, certainly you are required to put your deviation actions through the CAPA system. I like to call it a quality improvement system, because, you know, what is it saying? It's saying we've got these things to do, we've only got so much resources, let's prioritise them and work it through. I would like to see them in there because it means that they're going to get done. I think it's a useful way of doing it, if you manage it sensibly and justify that you will change priorities. That is not bad management, it's good project management and good use of resources. If you see it that way, part of a quality improvement system, that's exactly where I would put it, is into the CAPA system. If you are, dare I say it, American and very sort of perhaps bureaucracy based, and you have to send every CAPA thing up to, you know, the President of the United States of America for his approval before it comes back down the line, it takes 3 months for then maybe you need a more local system that might, you know. The trouble with those great big bureaucratic systems is that, to me, they don't work, and they just go, you know, too high and too quickly, and the message gets distorted. As long as there is some means of making sure the information is not ignored. If you have a CAPA system that is cumbersome and isn't conducive to that, then as long as it's just a method of tracking and you put it through your, you know, I don't know, your weekly quality meetings, your monthly quality meetings, your quarterly quality meetings, but you're not ignoring the data, and when trends occur, you can see them. Hey, what's happening here? You know, every single check we've done this last week, we've found something or other on it, you know, or perhaps it's the new operators we've brought in. Well, let's go back and revisit the training, because it's probably worth it for them, because it obviously hasn't stuck in the way that we thought. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.